Hello, and thanks for watching another episode of News of the Pews, where you can count on unapologetic 2A advocacy. Gun rights are human rights. If you are at all interested in human freedom, right to repair, gun rights, or basically even have a pulse, you have probably been following Californistan's inexorable grind toward a printer control bill, which would require basically impossible software to detect gun parts to prevent end users from rendering all gun control utterly pointless. The maker community hates it, nerds hate it, gun autists hate it. The only thing more universally despised by all points of the political compass these days is government surveillance. But the NCR Senate just gutted that plan. Now, don't get it twisted, the law is still just as inevitable as it was before, but it won't go into effect until the California DOJ confirms that the American Society for Testing and Materials has published an industry standard for identifying gun parts. So it is still a looming sword of Damocles, but it's not hanging from a thread. I would submit that it is suspended by at least a 1/4-inch wire rope cable, because it will be extremely difficult to write an industry standard that's effective enough to always distinguish between gun parts and parts for literally infinite other possibilities. Not that Californian politicians wouldn't try to apply pressure to the ASTM, of course, but it's literally impossible for even a human being to conclusively say this part here is definitely for or not for a gun. I mean, you can take a look at a picture and say, yeah, that's an AR lower, or that's a Ruger fire control unit, but even definitely non-gun things can become part of a gun. With a little imagination, a cordless drill, and a dream, almost any bent metal doohickey could serve as a fire control group. People often build guns out of off-the-shelf components, so there is literally no way a machine could keep up with human inventiveness. Now, to be clear, the bill isn't dead. California can still bring the mandate shambling back to life if somebody eventually creates a standard. But for right now, lawmakers transformed a sweeping printer control regime into a recurring reminder to ask whether the technology exists yet. That's not a solution, but it is probably about as good as we could possibly have expected for that control freak cesspool state known as California. But hey, it would be impossible for me to produce quality 2A propaganda without you. That's right. This video is not sponsored, so I literally could not make it without your generous support. So before I tell you why Sportsman's Guide agreed to pay $1 million settlement, I'd like to take a moment to humbly ask for your assistance. If you are in a comfortable place in life, please consider supporting this channel by joining my Patreon. Members get early access to scripts and videos, as well as private Discord access, which is particularly important to me because I get to communicate with you a lot more directly about what's happening in real time. Or, if you want to support me, but you'd like to get some fly threads out of the deal, perhaps I can interest you in one of these fashionable torso coverings for only $15. But whether you buy merch or donate directly at the links down there in the doobly-doo, and of course right here, your help is what keeps this thing going, and I am incredibly grateful for your generous support. But if you're not in a comfortable place, please don't feel pressured. You don't owe anyone else a thing. Just enjoy this 2A propaganda at the price of free 99 and continue to pray for us. So, Sportsman's Guide has agreed to a proposed settlement worth up to $1,015,000 over allegations that its website disclosed information about firearm purchases to third parties without customer consent. Notice this is Sportsman's Guide, not Sportsman's Warehouse, which had its own Pennsylvania gun buyer privacy settlement. This case covers Pennsylvania residents who ordered or reserved a firearm through the guide between January 2021 and July 2026. Sportsman's Guide denies these allegations. The court has not decided that it did anything wrong, and final approval is not scheduled until October. If the settlement is approved, class members can claim up to $145.
At last, we can retire and give up this life of crime.
While the lawyers can seek up to a third of the fund because the law also believes in feeding its own. But the principle matters more than the payout. A firearm retailer should be the first to understand privacy. Just because the government forces you to keep our records is no excuse to tongue kiss every sketchy data broker with the data you scraped from us. Meanwhile, a Texas school district built a brand new middle school directly downrange from a gun range that had operated since 1980, and now the district is taking the range to court. Northwest Independent School District says one bullet struck an exterior wall at Floyd Barksdale Middle School in May, and another struck a press box window in July. Both impacts were on the side facing Quail Creek Gun Range, about 1.2 miles away. The district says the owner of the range acknowledged that some goober could shoot over the berm and that additional safeguards might prevent that. A judge issued a temporary order allowing the range to continue operating but prohibiting guns and ammunition capable of reaching the school until more protections are installed. That means practically any rifled gun, even .22 from a rifle, could go over a mile. If rounds are escaping Quail Creek, that is indeed unacceptable. The range needs to fix it before somebody gets hurt. And "we were here first" doesn't really cut it unless you own the land all the way up to a mountain. But police have not publicly established that either projectile even came from Quail Creek, and a temporary order is not a finding that the range caused the damage. The range didn't build itself next to a school. The district selected and constructed a campus inside the potential danger area of a 46-year-old outdoor range. Protect the kids, and figure out where the bullets came from, and build whatever baffles are necessary. But can we talk about the retard who decided to build a school downrange from a shooting range? I mean, Texans are in a real awful spot for safe, legal places to shoot. Most of the state is as flat as your mom's forehead, and there is damn near zero public land to shoot on. If you don't know somebody who owns land, you're probably getting stuck paying to shoot at an indoor range. I don't know, I feel kind of conflicted on this issue, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, because on the one hand, of course, the range is responsible for every projectile that leaves the range. On the other hand, the property that came along later, knowing about the activities in the area, seemed to share some of the responsibility. Maybe the school should help to pay for some of the repairs to the range. I don't know. What do you guys think? And finally, Wisconsin has decided foster parents do not surrender their Second Amendment rights when they open their homes to children. Brian and Katie Lafferty had been licensed foster parents for years, with no allegations they violated any safety rule. When they sought renewal in 2020, Washington County demanded they sign a form banning carry around foster children, requiring every gun to remain unloaded, and forcing them to disclose what firearms they owned and where everything was stored. So the Laffertys took it to court, and the government dragged this fight out for years, changing the rules whenever the Laffertys got close to winning. But a Wisconsin appeals court finally struck down the remaining unloaded gun requirement, rejecting its sweeping firearm disclosure demands, and left intact only the power to require inaccessible storage when a gun isn't being used or carried. Now that's something that I've said for years that I think you ought to do, but the government shouldn't be able to force you to brush your teeth either.
Brush your teeth, brush your teeth, brush your damn teeth.
Wisconsin needs foster parents badly enough without making them choose between helping a child and defending one. Then again, I think a lot of people accept that the state can set some conditions in a foster home. So while we all agree the government has no business telling a parent what to do with his or her guns, I'd like to hear your thoughts on whether the state should be able to set any rules about guns, pools, or pharmaceutical access in foster homes, and what those rules should look like. Well, friends, rounds complete on 2, but if you'd like to help me continue advocating for the Second Amendment, please consider buying some merch or donating at the links down there in the doobly-doo. This program was made possible by contributions from Bill Crocker, E. Sr., Ozark Pilgrim, ODA 564, Squirted Glizzies, and viewers like you. And now for your moment of completion. I love you.